Many things spring to mind when we think of Scotland. The beautiful landscape, the history and mythology, the various symbols that seem to define the nation in our minds. One of the more majestic figures of Scotland is the great stag, a creature that represents the wild beauty and the remaining legacy of the old woodlands that once spanned the entire island. The stag in Scottish folklore and mythology means many things to many people, and it is some of these meanings we will look at today in the short tale of the haunted stream. In ages gone by, there were certain men in the Scottish Highlands who grew tired of the daily farming life, and would often dream about wild adventures and foreign climes. Perhaps they would find fame, glorious battle, or great wealth. Our tale starts with just such a man, at the moment he decided to leave his home and seek adventure. Now this man was a widower. He had lost his beloved wife some 6 years ago to a dreadful plague, which at that time raged throughout the land. Although now gone, the man's wife left him with a wonderful gift, their daughter Morag. Now the young girl was her father's joy, and his greatest regret would be leaving the girl to follow his destiny in another land. Whatever happened to him, he must know that Morag was safe, and so the father reached out to his kinsman, a fellow by the name of Fillion Maier. Now Fillion agreed to care for and raise the child. She would live under his roof, be cared for by his wife, and in all manners be one of Fillion's own. The father thought this was best, as with his daughter growing older and the loss of his wife, he did not know how to raise a child, and poor Morag was already showing a frailness of constitution. Fillion had a wonderful, caring wife, who was already a proud and strong mother to her own 2 sons. She would make a real Scotswoman out of young Morag. With all his affairs then in order, the father and Morag left their little home and headed for the house of Fillion Maier. There a heartbreaking farewell took place between the man and his daughter. He assured her that he would return one day, and with him he would bring wealth and fame. But these assurances did little to comfort the child's ailing heart. So now, as she stood, this tearful young girl, watching her father disappear into the horizon, knowing that she would have to make her peace with her new family. Yet young Morag needn't have worried, for the Moors were good people, and she was well cared for, and soon felt every bit one of the family. She happily joined in games with the boys, and spent many hours following after her new mother. Within a few months, Morag had become the very picture of a healthy, happy girl. It was in this way that she would remain, and time, as it always does, slipped away. Many years passed, and still her father had not returned, although letters would occasionally arrive telling Morag of her father's great adventures, his massing wealth and his daring deeds, but never about his return. She was now in her 19th year, and possessed a beauty and intelligence that any father would be proud of. The 2 Moor boys, Dermid and Caelan, now young men, would do anything in their power to please Morag. They were as devoted to her as any man to God. Then before either of them were aware of it, they had given both of their hearts to the young woman. Now for Morag, the relationship was somewhat different, and it was long before she realised that the brothers had more than sisterly love for her. It was not long after coming to this conclusion that Dermot on one day asked to speak in confidence with Morag. There the young man unburdened his heart. He spoke of feelings he had never felt before, and of Morag being the only person in his life he truly loved. The woman did not have a quick response. She knew of course what she wanted to say, but did not want to harm her kin. And worst of all, she knew her answer would have been entirely different if Caelan had approached her. For she had always held a special place in her heart for him, but in that moment she thought there was nothing better she could do than to tell the truth. She explained to Dermot that although she loved him dearly, it was as her brother, and that the partner that she wished for had been Caelan. Dermot was heartbroken and ran from the house in sorrow. Morag, unsure of what to do, ran after her brother in the hope of comforting him. He was far quicker than her, and could be seen already halfway up the great hill of Ben Cruachan. When Dermot reached the top of the hill, he found his brother Caelan, who inquired about the young man's tears and sadness. But this was too much for young Dermot. To be consoled by the one who had bested him in love, he would not have it. As Morag finally reached the top of the hill, a horrifying sight lay before her. Dermot was gone, and there laying in the crimson-covered moss was the lifeless body of Caelan. She ran to his side and held her beloved, but there was nothing she could do to save him. It is said by all those wise in the old tales that on that very day beautiful Morag wept so many tears she formed a new stream, which still runs down the side of Ben Cruachan. And on very rare occasions the magnificent form of a beautiful spectral stag emerges from that stream, and searches to comfort the woman that he'd once loved. And according to this ancient lore, the spirit of Caelan can still be seen to this very day, appearing from the waters in the early hours of quiet autumnal mornings. Thank you for listening, and a special thank you to my wonderful patrons who help me keep these tales alive. There is very little known about this tale. It only appears in a few books, and each time the tale seems to be mostly identical, which leaves us with so many unanswered questions. Who was Morag's father? Did he ever return? What happened to Dermot? And which of the many streams surrounding Ben Cruachan can the spectral stag be found? I understand that the tale got its point across, and that this tertiary information is perhaps not in the spirit or the heart of this story. But it is my own personal curse to want these answers, and more information besides. In ancient Celtic beliefs, the stag has always been seen as a powerful and regal creature, closely tied to the Sidhe or old gods. In specific, it was commonly associated with the Celtic god of the forest and hunt, Cairn-Nos, who is traditionally depicted with the antlers of a stag. In Scottish mythology and folklore, the stag was often seen as a protector of the forest and a symbol of strength. According to legend, the stag was a very novel creature indeed, as it possessed the power to walk between the worlds of the living and the dead. It was due to this that the stag was thought to be of the Sidhe realm, or perhaps a creature born of both realms, making it a great symbol of life and death. Some would even tell that the stag may have been a bridge between the physical and spiritual realms, able to carry final words to the dead or bring comfort to the living. Perhaps this reveals why stags have always been treated with so much respect by the old Scots. In old Scottish tradition, a large wooden effigy of a stag is set ablaze, in a ceremony simply known as the burning of the stag, a practice that holds significant cultural meaning. The burning of the stag symbolises the end of winter and the beginning of spring and summer. It cleanses the land of cold and dark, bringing with it new life. It also serves to honour the great stag due to the life it imparts to us through hunting and meat. The burning of the stag was once a celebration all of its own, but in modern times, the burning commonly coincides with the Gaelic festival of Bealtaine, where we celebrate the rebirth and coming of the summer by creating large fires and giving offers to the Doine Sidhe, along with the usual drinking and dancing that is. So until next time, I wish you all well, and if you happen to see a stag in the wild, give it all the respect that wonderful creature is due. Slanj va.